Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on a Wednesday evening as we gather for this very important update to be able to share and to hear from our independent monitor and the team. Grateful for all of those that have made their way out and those that are joining us online. We're glad that you thought it not robbery to come and to be a part of this very important conversation. And so I am Reverend Dr. Timothy L. Atkins Jones, Senior Pastor here at Bethany, and we are incredibly glad to be able to host and look forward to continuing to be a space where all of those in the community can come and to hear about what is going on that affects us so deeply. So before I turn it over to Emily from the Institute, I want you just to bow with me for a word of prayer as we invite the divine into this moment. Great God, again, we thank you for this wonderful opportunity to gather, God. We thank you for the great work that is being done to allow our community to be at its best. It's my prayer, God, tonight that we would have ears to hear, that we would listen and be informed, the questions would be asked that would make us feel even safer for those that work and labor so tirelessly to make sure, indeed, we are safe. So thank you again for all of those that had to work so hard for us to be here tonight, and all of those, God, that organized this opportunity to hear. Now, God, might you be pleased in all that is said and done as we continue to grow together. As always, in your name we pray, amen and amen. Emily?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Schwartz. I'm Senior Counsel at the Criminal Justice Reform Program at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. We are a member of the independent monitoring team of the consent decree. Welcome to this community forum. You will hear from Independent Monitor General Peter Harvey and Director of Public Safety Fritz Verjay. At the Institute, we believe the voice of the community should be at the center of all conversations surrounding policy. Community voices are absolutely critical to the success of this consent decree, and it's why we're having meetings like this. Thank you, Reverend Atkins Jones, for opening your church as a gathering place for this important discussion, as well as for your contributions as a board member at the Institute. I also want to recognize any elected officials, members of the Department of Justice, and members of advocacy organizations. Thank you for joining us here today. Decades-long frustration raised by Newark community members were acknowledged when in 2010, ACLU New Jersey filed a petition highlighting patterns and practices of unconstitutional misconduct, including widespread police violence, false arrests, and corruption. This prompted the Department of Justice to conduct its own investigation, concluding in 2014. The investigation confirmed what was long known by New Jersey community members. Newark's Black residents were disproportionately subjected to unconstitutional policing. Thus, in 2016, Newark entered a federal consent decree with the Department of Justice. As a result, Newark Police Department created 17 new policies ranging from use of force, bias-free policing, First Amendment right to record, police disciplinary processes, all of which require an auditing process to ensure compliance with these policies. These policies and the progress made under the consent decree is the result of work and collaboration with many of you in this room. You will first hear from General Peter Harvey, the independent monitor of the Newark Consent Decree. He is former Attorney General and the first Black Attorney General in New Jersey, and currently a partner at Patterson-Belknap. After General Harvey concludes, he will take questions. Next, you will hear from Director Fritz Verjay, Director of Newark's Public Safety Department. Previously, he served with the New Jersey State Police, where he was the commander of the investigations branch. He's also a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. After Director Verjay concludes, he too will take questions. I'd ask that the audience refrain from asking questions until each individual concludes their remarks. A microphone for audience members will be circulating at that time. While the work to transform policing in Newark has been tremendous, it remains incomplete. General Harvey will explain the most recent developments and the path forward. We encourage all parties to the consent decree to continue to work toward Newark's full passage of these audits. Ultimately, we are all on the same side, cheering on Newark's success. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you to our colleague Emily Schwartz for that very lovely introduction, and of course to Reverend Timothy Atkins Jones for allowing us to use Bethany Baptist. It's always a warm feeling to come back here This is an outstanding congregation, outstanding church with a tremendous legacy that Reverend Atkins Jones is contributing to. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to acknowledge one of your great prior leaders, of course, Reverend Dr. William Howard, who was in this pulpit for many years and has done tremendous work, not only in the city of Newark, but throughout the state and throughout the nation, indeed throughout the world. Thank you all for coming this evening to this community forum. We want to give you an update on where we are with the consent decree. The overview and the simple message is that Newark is making, thank you. Hopefully you all can hear me a little better. The overview is that the Newark Police are making very important progress under the consent decree. As you know, the consent decree sets forth a number of tasks in several areas that were of concern not only to the American Civil Liberties Union, but more importantly to the community, and that the Department of Justice recognized and embodied in the consent decree. It included searches with or without a warrant, arrests with or without a warrant. It included stops on the street. It included internal affairs, also the handling of property and evidence, and a number of other areas, community engagement being an important one. We say community engagement, and indeed it is set forth in the consent decree because it is different than community policing. Community policing sometimes is just patrols. Community engagement means there is an ongoing conversation between the police and the community about what are the public safety issues, concerns, and needs of the community in addition to the crime issues. The two are not, they're connected, but they're not the same. Community safety and public safety concerns everything from traffic to speeding to crosswalk signals to parks being safe for young people to go in them, to making sure that store owners and residents of buildings are not being harassed or not being intimidated by the activity that's going on the street. Crime, of course, is crime, and Newark Police respond to that on a daily basis. So there are two reports. We now issue semi-annual reports. There were quarterly reports, but in an agreement with the Department of Justice, beginning at the end of 2022, for all of 2023, we now issue semi-annual reports every 6 months. So we report on the activity of Newark PD during a 6-month period. The last report we filed was January 16, 2024, that covered the period of the first 6 months of 2023. We are going to file, probably in the next 10 days, no longer than 14 days, our second semi-annual report, which actually will be our 24th report. The report we filed in January was the 23rd semi-annual report. The next one will be the 24th. But for this 23rd report that covered the time period of the first 6 months of 2023, we addressed two important areas. One was the first property and evidence audit. Under the consent decree, Newark had to improve its property handling so that when people leave property on the street, where property is taken into custody by the police, this isn't necessarily evidence. This is just property. It can be watches, it can be bicycles, it can be walkers. Could be anything that a resident that is left somewhere or that is taken into police custody for whatever reason. You have to catalog it and store it in case the resident shows up to say, hey, I think I left my so-and-so in a particular location, I'd like to get it back. And the police should be able to find it and give it back to the public. Also, people who are arrested have property. It's not necessarily evidence. Once the charges are disposed of, resolved one way or the other, they should be able to come back and get the exact same property that they left with the police upon arrest. That property should be kept together. It should be kept in a secure location, and it should be given back to the resident. One thing that it should not be is stolen, and it should not be damaged. And so the consent decree addresses how Newark handles property, how it handles evidence that the county prosecutor here in Essex County is going to use to prove the case that has been made with respect to the person who has been arrested. So we did our first property and evidence management audit. The audit period was May 2021 through June 2021. Now remember, when we conduct these audits, we come to Newark PD and we give them a list of numbers that represent files that we want to examine. They don't give us the list that they want us to examine. We give them a randomized list of things we want to examine, and they have to go pull them so that we can look at them. And what we do is we try to track the taking into custody of that property or evidence to see if we can find it in the evidence room. And so that's what we've done. So the audit period covered May 2021, May 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. And in auditing Newark, we audit two things. One, what are you actually doing? And secondly, what is your documentation that confirms what you're actually doing? So NPD scored below the 95% threshold. For those of you who've been to our community meetings previously, you know that the pass score for Newark PD is 95%. That is the pass score for your activities on the street as well as your documentation. For this first property and evidence audit, Newark scored below the 95% compliance threshold. Now, Newark achieved a 99.3% compliance rate with respect to the property being in the place where it should have been. I'll say that again. A 99.3% achievement with respect to, was the property where it's supposed to be? Property that you took into custody, is it where it's supposed to be? Newark scored very highly on that. Where Newark did not score as high had to do with its intake procedures. How are you chronicling the information, and how are you keeping records about that information? So we made a few recommendations. We said that Newark supervisors and managers have to reinforce what the procedures and policies are. You should do it in a roll call situation with officers. You also have to use other means and methods, including issuing memoranda. You have to issue memoranda to remind officers, when you take property or evidence into custody, here is what you should do. You need these reminders because sometimes, and quite often, it's just simple oversight. It's a simple mistake. We conducted a second property and evidence audit most recently, and we're going to report on that in the 24th semi-annual report that I spoke about earlier that's going to be issued in the next 10 to 14 days. The second area that we audited that's also in the semi-annual report, and what I would urge you to do is to get a copy of the report that's outside on the table. You can read it for yourself and read it in as much detail as you wish. We try very hard to write this in plain language so anybody can read it and anybody can understand it, so that we don't write it as if everybody in the room or everybody who reads it is a lawyer. We want to write it in a way that is very easily understood. Second area was the second stops audit. These are stops that occur on the streets that Newark PD conducts from time to time. The audit period was April 1, 2022 through May 31, 2023. Again, we filed this audit report on January 16, 2024. If you go to the NPD website, you should be able to find all of our audit reports there, because under the consent decree, Newark PD is required to put them there so that they're accessible to anybody. Just go right to the website, look for the report you wish to review, and review In this second stops audit, the monitoring team found that 95.36% of the stops that we reviewed passed muster. So Newark got a passing score there, both with respect to the conduct that occurred on the street, but also with respect to the documentation and how officers are writing their reports. Now, for the 24th report that will be issued probably this month, if not, it'll be issued the first week in March. It's being reviewed right now by lawyers at the Department of Justice. It's being reviewed by the City of Newark because under the consent decree, they have the opportunity to review it before we file it. Here are the areas we're going to report on. Use of force. That means what force have officers used out on the street in their encounters with citizens. Searches with or without a warrant. Bias-free policing, to be sure that officers are acting in a manner that is not biased when they stop people on the streets, when they encounter people on the streets, when they take police action with people on the streets. Arrests with or without a warrant, which is pretty plain. And again, as I mentioned before, the second property and evidence search examination of how Newark is handling property and evidence. You should know that Newark's property and evidence room here has been in very poor condition for a lot of years. The good news is that Newark has allocated money and has broken ground on a new facility that will be built very soon, and that will help better secure property and evidence. It's being well secured now, but some parts of that building are just not good, and it needs to be replaced, and it is being replaced. And I'm sure the director will address that if you put a question to him. But with respect to the second stops audit, the audit period that we examined, the results will be in the report. I don't want to preview them now to give the Department of Justice and the City of Newark an opportunity to review our report. But the audit period for the second stops audit is April 1, 2022 through May 21. I'm sorry, forgive me. I mean the third use of force audit. That is what we are auditing first, and that's what will show up in this report. The third use of force audit, that audit period is July 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2022. July 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2022. Then we move to the second searches audit, searches with or without a warrant. That audit period is November 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022. Again, the second searches audit, that period is November 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022. We also conducted the first bias-free policing audit to be sure that the police conduct was not biased. That audit period is July 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2022. And we also conducted an audit of arrests, the second arrest audit with or without a warrant. That audit period is October 1, 2022 through November 30th, 2022. Again, the second arrest audit period, October 1, 2022 through November 30th, 2022. And the second property and evidence management audit, that period for which we conducted the audit is May 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2022. Those audit results will be in the 24th report, and that's what we have. Now, there is another area that we intend to review sometime this year, and that is internal affairs. Internal affairs is important because these are the detectives, if you will, the sergeants, the lieutenants, the captains, who review the behavior of officers against whom a complaint of misconduct has been made. That complaint may come from officers on the force, and it may come from members of the public. The last review we conducted had to do with closed cases in 2015 and 2016. We are going to pick a period of time post-pandemic to review internal affairs cases. And what we're going to be looking for will be some of the following. Number one, how thorough were the investigations conducted? Secondly, how quickly were they conducted? We don't want to sacrifice thoroughness for speed, but we want to know how carefully did you investigate the matter and how quickly did you do it. We also are going to look at what were the charges that were filed as compared to the allegations, and then ultimately what was the discipline that was imposed. What we've noticed over the years that we've been conducting this consent decree review and process and audits is that Newark has gotten dramatically better with respect to internal affairs than it was when we started this process and when the ACLU brought this matter to the attention of the Department of Justice. You have officers now who've been terminated, officers who've been suspended, civilians who've been terminated, civilians who have been suspended. And we see a dramatic improvement with the way Newark handles complaints made against officers and the way it investigates complaints against officers. We're going to continue to review that, and we're going to do it this year. So that's where we stand. Again, I urge you to take a look at the report, the 23rd report that we've issued, but this is the semi-annual report for 2023, and we will issue in the next couple of weeks, probably over a 2-week period, the 24th report, but it will be the second semi-annual report covering the year, the second 6-month period for 2023. So having said that, I'll open the floor for questions that you may have, members of the public. Yes.
Are the property audits random?
Yes.
So they are random?
They are random. We go in and we identify particular numbers that represent files that we want to examine. The police have no idea what we're going to look at, and they have to go and pull the records relating to this property and evidence. And then what we do is we look at the records, and then we actually go to the location where the property should be to confirm that it's in fact there and that all of it is there as reflected in the reports.
Checking of the files are random, but is the property audit, is that scheduled? So do the precinct know you are actually coming there?
It's not at the precincts mostly. Sometimes it may occur there. It's usually at the property and evidence room. We send them under the consent decree a 45-day letter in advance telling them we're coming in to do a property and evidence audit, but they don't get the numbers until we have to give them notice because they have to pull the files. But we see the files as they exist day to day in the ordinary course, and that's what we examine. And one of the first things we check is the property or evidence where it's supposed to be? And then secondly, have you properly documented where the property and evidence, how it came into your possession, tracing it all the way to where it happens to be today?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Mr. Harvey.
Yes.
Sharon Redding, Community Active South Ward. The last time when I came to one of the consent decree meetings, you were talking about the community engagement on how the community was going to be involved, but you said you hadn't had a plan yet. Have the plan been made where you will be able to talk to the community to see how they feel about the policing and the changes that have been made in the city of Newark?
Well, let me unpack that question a little bit. This is our community meeting. Newark PD has separate engagement activities, and one of the areas that we are examining is what is Newark actually doing with respect to community engagement, and then secondly, are they recording it in a report? Because under Newark's policy, and you should read the community engagement policy, it's on their website, it tells the public and it tells officers exactly what you have to do. It's not the who are the community engagement officers in a precinct. It's the function of every officer to be engaged in the community. It sets forth what officers are required to do and what supervisors are required to do, and it sets forth quarterly reporting obligations. what I would suggest is identify the precinct in which you live and find out whether or not you're getting notices about these community meetings, and attend and share your point of view about what you think that particular precinct should be doing in your neighborhood. Don't think about it politically in terms of wards. Think about it in terms of precincts, because you have precincts in the city, and you should find out what is the precinct that covers your residential area, and find out about these meetings, and you can find out about them right here. Don't leave here without finding out when the next one is and making sure you get on an email list or mailing list about it, so you know about it. You can go and you can participate in those sessions, and you can raise whatever concerns you have, and they'll listen.
Yes, Mr. Harvey.
Yes.
I know Captain Wilson from the 5th Precinct down there, and I do attend a lot of their meetings and everything.
Good.
But I was just asking about the last time that you said you didn't have a plan. I know you said this is a community meeting, but I'm talking about the people that are out there in the streets and stuff. Are you going to talk to them, the ones that are not here, that don't really know about this meeting and stuff? There's a lot of people that didn't know about this meeting.
Well, these are the meetings that we have to talk about the consent decree. If you're asking whether or not I'm going to go out in the community and go neighborhood by neighborhood to conduct meetings like this, no. No, these are the meetings that we have to talk about what the work is. And we will do another one after we issue the 24th report that covers the period of the last 6 months of 2023. We will do another one of these conversations. And I would urge people who, they're posted on the NPD website. We try to give notice. We work through the Institute for Social Justice. We know they have communication outlets as well. And we would urge people to show up and talk to us about it. They can share whatever they wish with us. But at the end of the day, the engagement should be with Newark PD. That is your day-to-day relationship, and that these are the people who can actually do something about whatever your concerns are about public safety or about crime. It's the Newark PD. We don't run, I'll tell you what you already know, we don't run the Newark PD. We don't mandate what the Newark PD does or doesn't do. What we did was help Newark rewrite certain policies, write new policies, rewrite certain training, write new training, implement that training. And now we're at an audit phase where we come in and we examine, is Newark complying with its policy, and is it complying with its training? That's what our role is. But in terms of the operational aspects of Newark PD, that's left to the police department and, of course, the city.
General Harvey, I just want
Yes.
to say one thing. So my name is Yannick with the Institute for Social Justice, and I'll take your contact information at the end, and I'll add you onto our email. Oh, you have it on? Okay, all right, cool. All right, awesome. And if there's anyone else who is not here, who should be on the email list, then we'll add them to our email list so that way they can get further updates about this. Thank you.
Good evening. My
Good
name is
evening.
Valerie Dell, and I heard you mention about the training that's being given to the police officers. Okay, so I was told that I live in a high crime area, that the cops don't tolerate certain things. Okay, but
What do you mean, tolerate certain things? They don't come to the area, or they?
No, well, there is presence of police on Munn constantly, okay?
Yes.
And some of the presence I have a problem with, right? So you mentioned that the cops are being trained. Well, the encounters that I've had doesn't show that they're being trained. I had a cop to walk over to me while I'm sitting in my car and to tell me that my car is unregistered when I know my car is registered. I even showed him documentation, and then he still disrespected me. I since did put a police complaint on him. This was August 15, 2023. I am yet to still wait for the sergeant to even get back to me. She got back to me one time, But she told me, she wrote a letter to me, certified, telling me that the investigation, she wanted to contact me when it's going to be concluded. I have not been contacted since that letter. That was September. And I call, no answer, no response back. I email, no response back. And just recently, I was told that she works in financial department. So I asked, well, who is taking care of her cases? The officer who I was talking to had a very bad attitude with me over the phone. So to me, it's like, it gives you discouragement not to even move forward with the case and the investigation to, you know, get this cop from that area. Because at this point, like, I just don't feel comfortable when I even go out of my driveway. I don't feel comfortable, and I shouldn't have to feel like that when I'm paying tax dollars to have that officer do community policing. And, you know, it's like a constant attitude that they have, and it doesn't seem like it's community policing to me.
All right. Well, a couple of things. One is, I'm glad you reported it. I'm glad you came tonight, because you can talk with someone tonight who can get you to the person who can get you an answer with respect to your complaint. That's number one. Number two is, I would not ascribe to every officer in the Newark PD the attitude that you experienced with that one officer. That's one person. It does not represent the attitudes of all the police officers. And I think you'll find that as you talk to more. Thirdly, if that is the only officer who's patrolling your area, you should find out also, again, the precinct commander there, and make sure you bring your concerns to the attention of the precinct commander there. But do not leave here tonight without finding out how you can get follow-up with respect to your complaint. However your complaint is decided, the important thing is that someone should get back to you. I suspect someone will get back to you. I'm glad you came this evening, and you will get some answers coming out of this program tonight.
Okay, and also I have another concern.
Go right ahead.
Traffic stops. Why is it that the police have, I don't know how to say it, okay, like say if you're getting pulled over for something, like just say running a yellow light or a red light. Why do the police in Newark feel like they should give you 5 extra tickets? It's like excessive. It's just not right. And I've heard other complaints with other neighbors that they're doing that to when they come down that street.
I can't answer that, but I think there's someone here who probably can. And you may want to save that question for the director and raise that concern and give the director an opportunity to explore the street you're talking about, the time of day you're talking about, and the particular precinct that you're talking about.
All right. Thank you, Ms.
You're
Martin.
welcome. Any other questions?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm looking at the report on the bottom of page 3.
All right.
I guess it's the audit for the property and evidence, and the very low 8.72%. Is it a record? Is it a formatting problem, or what is the resistance to filling out a form properly?
What the questioner is raising is that we said the following on page 3, last paragraph, quote, "The monitoring team determined that only 8.72% of items reviewed were compliant, both substantively and with respect to documentation." In other words, 13 out of 149 items reviewed by the monitoring team achieved overall compliance. The monitoring team determined that in most cases, NPD correctly ensured that property and evidence was properly booked and stored in the property division. NPD nonetheless received a compliance score of 8.72% because in most cases, NPD failed to comply with reporting and documentation requirements surrounding property and evidence, period, end quote. The challenge that we have found consistently in a number of reports is that Newark officers are not preparing their reports adequately. Even when they do everything right, they don't write it down. It could be community engagement, and they could meet with a group of people in the community and have a very positive conversation and get some very good ideas, and they don't write reports about it. And we have really pushed officers to do that. We're going to undertake an audit of supervisors, and we're going to ask supervisors whether or not they are giving attention to the inadequacy of written reports by certain officers doing certain tasks, and that's just what it is. Look, I've said it to the assembled before, and I'll say it again tonight. If I had my way, I would not allow you to be a police officer in any city unless you had 2 years of college, if I had my way. Because I think that the 2 years of college beyond high school will give you maturity, it will give you seasoning. Most importantly, it will give you a sense of scholarship that you may not leave high school with. And so the problem you're identifying is a conversation that we are having with the monitoring team. It appears in almost all of our reports, where you see Newark performing the tasks very well, consistent with policy and training on the streets. Where they fall down and do not pass is with respect to report writing. And it's just something they have to learn to do better. I know that the director is committed to it, and the director is really pushing not simply the officers, but the supervisors, the sergeants, the lieutenants, and the captains to review these reports to make sure they are properly written and that you don't just leave open spaces or you use boilerplate language. So that's the issue. It's simply a matter of taking the time to do the work that, that is required to prepare a report. Look, how many television shows or movies have you seen where somebody, a cop complains, you're gonna make me do all this paperwork? Well, this is what it is. Because you need these reports for a couple of reasons. One day you're going to retire, and someone who assumes your responsibilities needs to know what you did over the past 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Secondly, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which may conduct reviews of certain aspects of police conduct, they do that through reports. Thirdly, your managers need to understand what you're doing. And the way for them to do that is not by just looking at the videos, but reading your reports. So we really push NPD to get better at writing reports, and we're going to examine it more closely when we do the supervisory audit. But I can tell you for certain that the police director is giving this his personal attention, and he's quite serious about it. And I think you have to be. This is, when we talk about cultural change, this is some of what we're talking about. Learn to be thorough in your report writing and learn to write them in a timely manner and file them in a timely manner. So that's why you saw that score.
Okay, it reminds me of the, I'll say, debate going on in New York with the officers saying it only take another 10 seconds for them to do this handheld digital stuff. Is that something, incorporating technology to assist with some of this burdensome paperwork?
You ask a very good question. Would technology help? Yes. Technology always helps.
Okay.
It helps speed it up, but you need to fund it. And that's a decision by the city council and the government of the city of Newark. We cannot mandate that anybody spend any money. But at the end of the day, data systems are important. And it's one area of this consent decree that is a major challenge for this city. And it's not NPD per se's fault. It is a city responsibility to live up to the data requirements that are set forth in the consent decree. And yes, data systems are of consequence. They are very helpful. They can streamline work, but you got to pay for them. They're not inexpensive. And here's what I can tell you. It's almost as if you put off buying an apartment, whether it's an apartment, a condominium, or a house. You say, well, I'm not going to buy it in 2022 because it costs too much. In 2023, it's going to cost more. In 2024, it's going to cost more. I assure you in 2025, it's going to cost more. So at some point, you just have to buy the systems, and they will help officers expedite the work.
Okay, so I have one more.
Go right ahead.
On the bottom of page 5,
Yes.
I guess this is part of the education effort in these reports. It says, issue a memorandum to remind all sworn employees how to properly complete and receive supervisor approval for documentation.
Yes.
A sworn employee versus what is an unsworn employee?
Civilians.
Oh,
So you have sworn and unsworn officers. Again, the questioner is asking about how to, we wrote in how to encourage officers who are handling property and evidence to be more thorough in their report writing. And these are some suggestions, recommendations that we've made. And one of which is to issue memoranda to officers periodically to say, as you're preparing these reports, make sure that you are handling the property and evidence. It's not the handling of the property and evidence that's a problem, it's the report writing. And you just have to reinforce it. So sworn and unsworn refers to sworn officers who are police officers, unsworn meaning civilians who work in the police department. And every
Okay.
department has unsworn people.
I'm sorry, I'm still confused. So does that mean civilians
Yes.
handle property and evidence?
No, they have tasks that are associated with property and evidence collection. But when you say handle it, they may have a role, a small role or a limited role at a certain point, but civilians aren't engaging in some of the same activities that police officers are.
Yeah. Okay, so one last thing. In terms of documentation and, you know, stuff being where it's supposed to be, if something never makes its way into the system, you would know about it anyway, right?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
If something didn't make it to the point of, in terms of the chain of custody?
There's not a chain of custody problem. If that's
Okay.
the question that someone is inviting you to ask, there's not a chain
No,
of custody problem.
I'm asking because I'm thinking if it never gets to point A, then nobody knows except those who
Well, if
didn't
the
get to
property is
point
never
A.
turned in, you don't have the opportunity to catalog it and put it in a bin for storage.
Okay, but the property would be, say, at the scene?
I can't tell you that.
But is that would be part of a policy, right? Or a practice that
The
you're at the
policy sets,
scene or you're called to a scene?
the policy delineates how officers must handle property and evidence that comes into the possession of the police.
But that would include an officer reporting to a situation, right?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
If an officer is at a location and has some kind of encounter where property might or might not be seized, is there a gap between, you know, where the chain of custody starts?
If the property is not seized, then there's no requirement that you chronicle it, report on it, and store it. If it is seized, the policy directs how you handle it.
I think essentially what she's trying to ask is like, is it considered, like if there are items at a scene, if an officer comes to a home, is that considered property, or is the property on the person if they're detained and then taken to the
It
precinct?
depends on the situation. If you come to a home and there's property around, not everything is going to be taken into custody. And if it's not taken into custody, the policy is not triggered. If it is taken into custody, then the policy is triggered, and there's a certain way to handle it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay, let me just see. Is there any other person's questions?
Director Frage is,
One last.
oh,
I have
one last question.
I have one last question.
Go right ahead.
I believe Governor Murphy, he signed the PL 2022 C-65, stating that all law enforcement officers are to be licensed. Is that true to Newark too, Newark PD?
Well, if the law applies to all officers, it would apply to Newark too.
So that includes sergeants, lieutenants, captains?
I don't know, I haven't read the law.
Okay.
I promise you I'll be real quick.
That's all right, ask your question, that's why we're here.
When you, my name DJ anyway, for everybody know.
Very well.
When your recommendations for the consent decree.
Yes.
Was it anywhere in there where a citizen review board should be administered or should be advocated for? And if so, how's they doing? If not, why not?
Well, paragraph 13 of the consent decree sets forth the civilian oversight entity. It's defined in a single paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
But it's left to the board to organize itself and to operate itself. We do not have the task of monitoring what the Civilian Complaint Review Board does or doesn't do. That's not a task that we undertake. So if you want to find out what the CCRB is doing, you would have to contact someone in city government or someone in the CCRB to determine when they meet, where they meet, what they do, what they review. But
So
that's
it's-
not something we know about.
So it's safe to say, though, but it was recommended.
Oh, it's in the consent decree.
Okay, thank you.
It's in the consent decree, and I think there's a city ordinance that establishes the CCRB too, and it defines its powers.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Director Frage.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Bethany Baptist Church for hosting us today. Usually all the meetings we have end up in a religious atmosphere when we outreach to the community because in most communities, religion is the foundation and base of community engagement and conversations in a sense. So thank you, Reverend Jones, for having us here. I'd like to thank Peter Harvey and his team in assisting with the guidance and information to assist Newark on this joint endeavor that they signed on to approximately 7 years ago. And lastly, I'd like to thank the consent decree team, which is Captain Leo Carrillo and his staff that consistently have to meet and follow up to get all these consent decree requirements completed and established in a timely manner. First, I'd like to talk about the two things is the precincts, and we had several questions and concerns in reference to how do you reach the police department, how do you have conversations and have questions. The community engagement piece for Newark Public Safety, which is Newark Police Department, is extensive and has been in the forefront of what we've been doing the past several years since I've been here in 2022 when I took over the police department. First, one of the questions we're asked about how do you contact the police. Every precinct has a community meeting at least once a month for the community to attend. We solicit and post those meetings on all of our social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I believe we may be going on another site, one of the kids' sites to review, TikTok or whatever. I'm 55, I don't really get involved in that, but I know there's another site that we're trying to reach the youth in having conversations with us and informing us of what the concerns and complaints are so we can at least have a better manner of mitigating all those circumstances. That being said, the police departments, with their precinct commanders, in that meeting, they give out their phone number, their specific cell phone number required to that community so the community can reach out and speak directly to the man in charge of that specific precinct that can answer your specific answers, which has to be reported. And then they also have a community events monthly also, each precinct, that they have to present at my ComStat meeting when we have the community event scheduled for each community, whether it's eating with the children or a community party with the community or a shopping spree, whatever the event is, they're all required to have it per precinct. And we have now 9 precincts in this city. We have the 9th precinct that was just activated. It's called the Metro, is now a full precinct now. It's separated from part of the 3rd. So those are the avenues and ways to outreach to us and have questions, answers that you may have, to make complaints, whether it's a simple street light that is out, or you have too many kids hanging in front of your house, or there's a liquor store that you find bottles in front of your area where your living standards may not be up to par, you want to have a complaint. We coordinate with DPW and other entities of the city to help mitigate all those circumstances. So that is the way to reach us. Any questions we have our Community Services Officer, Sergeant Phoebus here. We take your name down with any complaints that we just heard recently that hasn't been responded to. Those are where you can come make the complaints in person if you want to. We try our best to outreach and put it out on social media outlets. We try our best, and some of them are packed and some are not as packed. Some days people come and other days they don't, but we encourage them to come to those meetings to ensure that the community can at some point, at least that specific precinct or ward, has a voice in what their concerns are, and we try to address it in a timely manner. Unfortunately, no matter what you do, there's always room to be better. It's not unfortunate, that's what you have to do. No matter how you outreach, you have to find ways to do it better, to engage more people going forward. Besides the precincts, we also have a quarterly consent decree meeting that we have ourselves to present to the community what we're doing and where we're at on our own, besides the one that Peter Harvey has for the community. We do it quarterly throughout the whole city, and we invite the community to that also. That meeting is where we explain what we're doing, where we're at, where we're going, where we hope to be in the future. And there you can also bring complaints. The good thing about complaints is the only way to get better is to hear what the concerns are, and at least we can quell the myths, at the same time fix the problems that you may have or may not have that you want addressed at that time. And that's our goal in the police department. I keep stressing and striving to the personnel that when you're talking about community engaging and the policing and community engagement, the police are us and we are the police. At some point in time, we can't do our job without the over 300,000 eyes and ears that are out there that report certain circumstances for us to mitigate or support you in a sense. We can't do our job without your support. And I'm proud to say that over the past 2 years since I've been, violent crime has been down in the city. I think the first year we were here, we did a decent job of reducing the homicide rate to the lowest in 60 years, from 150 10 years ago to 47. One life is bad enough, but the reduction is slowly decreasing. And then last year, the same thing happened. We reduced it more, the best violent crime rate in this city, where other cities are trending up. You know, you got Chicago, Memphis, all those cities are up 100-200 murders a year. We're down to 47, 48. So in this city, overall, violent crime and violent activity in this city, overall counts have been reduced to some capacity, in a sense. I'm not giving credit to police. I'm giving credit to the community that engages us to help us solve our crimes. We have an 84% homicide solve rate, which means of the shootings that happen here where somebody dies, we solve 84%. The national average is 40. And that's not us. This is the community talking to us. So at least in that piece, the community is engaging with us to help keep the city safer, which we do appreciate because that helps us do our job better, in a sense. When we go further into the property and management, and she was talking about technology. Well, the city has invested in technology since I've been here. The first piece I want to talk about is the training aspect. In the past 7 years, we've followed all the mandates that the consent decree implemented on us. But in the past 5 years, we've also enhanced our training capabilities. In the past 2 years, almost every detective, close to 140 detectives, 53 are going next week, are all going to investigation school. So they understand how to do investigations. So they understand the rules and regulations on how to proceed in doing an investigation, as opposed to being trained or trained the trainer, professionally trained. We're giving them the tools to have the education to do the job that we set them out to do. We don't put them in positions where they're guessing, they're making educated guesses without any training to do the job they're assigned to do. We've ensured that every precinct has at least 3 to 5 uniformed cops that have training as detectives, so when they do want to come be detectives, they've already got the training to implement them going forward. The standard now is training to get to do a job properly. As Peter Harvey was saying, that we have an evidence system where we're 98 to 99% compliant, where everything's there, which means nothing's missing. Where we're lacking, he's saying, is the education to write the reports properly. So in 2 years, when Fritz Frage, I retire, and Jeff Smith takes over, he doesn't have to guess. There's a filing system inadequate. But I will tell you, as of now, there is a new evidence building that's being built. It will be completed approximately May, so that's going to enhance us in our technology and how we store information and evidence properly. The city has taken great lengths to support us with the things we need to make Newark Public Safety, Newark Police better. Besides the training facility, the evidence building, we are also being certified by the PTC to open up our own training academy, which was closed in 2014, I believe, because of the same reasons that were in the consent decree. But now, as of recently, we're applying to the PTC, and Newark City has the biggest state-of-the-art William Mobile Ashby Training and Community Center, which means it's a center that's going to be embracing the community with the police and the fire. The community will have a seat at the table to use it for community events also. So it's not just a center where it's just cops using it, the trained police academy. It's a center where the community can have community meetings, where they're going to have a DIFUS course for families that need support, or OVP will have a violence prevention course in the facility. It's state-of-the-art with new technology. So the technology piece, this building was probably the most expensive state-of-the-art training facility in the state of New Jersey once it's finally inspected. We're going through the process right now, and we'll be open sometime in late April, May, and hopefully get our first class into the academy in later this summer. So those are the strides that we're taking as a city, as a police department, and these things were all built on the community support of the police department, the community support, and the city council support of helping the police department become better and mending those relationships. The other portion, there's another building being built. It's a NIBIN building. That's technology for NIBIN analysis for shooting incidents. That's also being built, will be completed sometime in May also. So that's 3 new buildings the city has invested in the community. And the buildings that are saying the training center is for the community use also. It's not just for the police. It's embracing, it's going to help us bond together. There's a big theater there. They're going to be posting and hosting community events. Community activist group has a seat in the building also. Several groups to coordinate and use the space without charge. There's no charge in that manner. It's part of the community and us to build and forge that relationship that we need to make things better. Because the reality is the police can't do their job without you. Because if the community is not talking to us, having conversations with us, we can't do our job. We wouldn't be as successful as we are preventing violent crimes. And I don't want to say violent crime is abolished, because it's by far not. If you have one person die, it's critical. But when you go from 150 to 47 and the entire country is going up, something right is happening here in Newark. That our numbers aren't going up, they're progressively going down. Okay? The last thing we'll talk about the internal affairs component. They're going to be reviewing that shortly. Since the past 2 years we've been over, we've changed our whole structure on how we do investigation internal affairs. First, they're going to be seasoned and trained detectives doing those jobs. And second, they're going to be supervisors managing those jobs. So the rank for our internal affairs unit is now captains and lieutenants that are investigating these investigations, which means they have a higher level of education and aptitude to actually do an investigation instead of just a regular detective that's just learning and with experience. And there's supervisors that are subject to a higher level of review and understanding prior to these investigations being completed. We look forward to participating and answering all the questions that Peter Harvey and his team has. We look forward to making this entire community and building the relationships we have with each other better to progress as a community in itself. As violence goes down, we want the commitment. We tell our officers that we have isolated incidents that there's always going to be one bad apple in every bunch. It doesn't matter what the profession is. Policing, doctors, lawyers, there's always somebody that's going to do something ridiculously stupid that causes and paints the image of the entire group of being. The reason we're here in this consent decree because legally they found the real concerns from the community concerns, and we as in, I wasn't here at the time, joined together and got into this consent decree to make it better. I think over the past 7 years we've strived to make it better and to move forward to make it safer for the community. In reference to more technology that we've purchased, people who are my technology, we just bought, city paid close to $6 million for Axon camera system. Axon is the newest camera system, state-of-the-art, that has been implemented right now. Every police officer will have a new Axon camera on his chest that works automatically, triggers when the light turns on, every vehicle equipped with that. So now we could dump the video better. We have an evidence management system with the system in itself to help us manage the evidence better. So we're investing. The city, I must say, it has allocated financial resources to pay for these things, to help the police department get better, to serve the community. We also just purchased another Zetron system to help with the 911 calling system so there's no overflow or backlog of the 911 system. That's also being implemented now. So in the past 2 years since I've been here, these are all strides that happened in the past 2 years. I haven't even discussed the things that have been happening in the past to get them to this point where Peter Harvey can say, hey, they're 99 compliant, there's no evidence missing, somebody's not doing a report. It's like saying you did the job right, but you didn't finish it completely. And that is an education standpoint where we're trying to get training for our young cops. Because half our cops are, I'll give you an example, we had a police officer that took the test, became a cop, and this is the age of Uber. So when I was 16, I was driving my mother's car without permission, which you shouldn't be doing. But the kids nowadays don't drive because they Uber everywhere. Just got his license, and on midnights, he couldn't drive the car because his license was provisional. That's just to show you how young. If you're a 19, 20-year-old kid, you just got your license, and because you only had it for under a year, you can't drive past 11 o'clock. So when he's working midnights, he had to be the passenger. So this is how young of a department we have, where people are getting on at 19, they pass the test. Well, you're not going to prevent them or stop them, but in a sense, I'm showing you where that's where we may be lacking. We're trying to train our young people to be better at what they do. I believe Mr. Harvey's right. I encourage all of our personnel, at minimum, let's go to junior college. Let's find some way to fund it, because the first 2 years of school is report writing. When I went to college, I remember that. How do you read? How do you write? Critical stuff that will be instrumental in us fixing that gap where report writing is a concern that's keeping us in this stagnant situation that we're in. Now, if anybody has any questions, I'll turn it over to the floor for any questions you may have.
Yes, good evening, Director. So my name is Al Noor Thomas. I'm with One Hood under OVPTR, under Keisha Uri, the Deputy Mayor. And so I got some concerns because it's really not questions from me, it's from the community because I'm dealing with, safe passage and high-risk intervention. So I'm in the streets, boots on ground. I talk to the youth, the people in the community, peers, and I'm trying to find out some of their concerns. And I want to commend you. You're doing a good job, Director. We reduced the crime, a lot of the murders and everything. I commend the officers in here as well as all the organizations, One Hood, New Direction, the Hub. Collectively, I think we're doing a good job. But I have to ask these questions because if I don't ask these questions that the community is asking, I'll be doing disservice to them. So some of what I'm hearing now is like, as far as when we talk about the property, I'm hearing a lot of these kids, young men and women saying that, is it like an unwritten law now? You don't get your cell phones back? Like when you get arrested? Like I know technology, I know that the officers use the phones to help, reduce crime or investigate and everything. But so I'm like, when they asked me the question, I said, listen, most of the time they're going to keep your phone because they got to investigate it for, to try to, figure out if they could convict you on the crime that you got arrested for. So they said, wait a minute. And I said, listen, you got a property slip. When you get the property slip, because, I was long ago in the streets, and I know when things happen like that, I get a property slip, I go back with my property slip, here's my cell phone, my keys, my wallet, But they said, oh, that's back in the day. You're not getting nothing. The cell phone's not going on no property slip. You're going to see probably your keys or wallet, but you're not going to even get a cell phone on your property slip. So it's not even documented that they got their cell phone taken. That's what they're saying. And they're saying that, so what they're going to do, they're going to go to a police station and say, listen, you took my phone and I didn't get my phone back. So where's your property slip? It's not, you didn't write it down. If they're not writing it down, if they're not documenting it, and I just want to know, is this a new thing?
Okay.
If you get arrested, you don't get your cell phone back.
I can't speak to the circumstances you're talking about, but I can elaborate on what you're trying to say. The reality of it is this: if you're invested in some kind of crime, and the person gets arrested and your property is taken, the cell phone is documented. But if it's not property that's, like for instance, your wallet is your property, the cash in your wallet is your property. The cell phone is for investigative purposes. So we get logs in evidence as far as investigative. There's a chain of command or chain of command control of that evidence, which we need to go to court. So as that custody is stored until the prosecutor, whatever they're trying to get out of the phone, they get a warrant for whatever they're looking for to support the investigation. So once it's taken for investigative purposes, it won't be released till after the trial or this case is probably mitigated in most cases. So I can't tell the exact time frame of when. If you think somebody took the phone and didn't document it, report it. I encourage that. Report it, yeah, go in there and say, hey, my phone disappeared. And I guarantee you, they'll be like, oh, there was an investigation. It's probably in the property room. It's not this, it is that. But if there's a problem where I encourage them to if there's a problem where to go to the precinct and complain that their phone was taken by the police on this day. And then it's easily tracked. Because all those phones are taken for evidentiary purposes. And once they get it for evidence and they push it to the prosecutor for review,
No one gets phones back.
I encourage them, like I work with One Hood, Big City people. The truth of the matter is, our job wouldn't be as easy as it is without you. The numbers being so low, I would tell you that if something happens in Westside High School and you guys go out to our community, the information you get to assist to calm the violence is life-saving, if you don't know it. So that's street-level work, dangerous and life-saving. So I've got to give you that to tell you how you support us. But as far as the phones, if they feel the phone has been taken, call the precinct, make a complaint. I guarantee you they'll tell you it's an investigation. Nobody's taking people's cell phones. I could just assure you of that. They can't get it back because I said if it's used for investigative purposes, that's not our call to give it back until that whole circumstance is mitigated. That's what I can tell you about that. And then they can either get it back or, you know, whatever the case may be. Each case is different. I'm not saying they're getting it back. Maybe the phone was stolen. Maybe it wasn't stolen. Maybe it belongs to somebody else. I don't know what the circumstances are. But at some point, it will be released when the case is done. But that's not Newark Police's call. This is part of an investigation. So once we do an investigation, we package up, present it to the prosecutor, and they need that phone for whatever they're going to be charging that person with if they're going to charge them. And until then, I can't just go take the phone from them or order it to be released to anybody. But if there's a complaint of one being missing, I strongly encourage you to report that because I won't tolerate that in the police department if somebody's missing a phone. So please, encourage them to report that incident.
Director Fraget, if there's an audience member that has any complaints or anything of individual concern, who should they speak to tonight about that?
Tonight we have, I think, Sergeant Phoebe, she's here, or she's in uniform. She would take her information down. We can get it right to my office. As I said before, any complaint you have, we will give you the phone number and cell phone number of the executive officer of that precinct that patrols your area and the captain of that precinct that patrols that area. And they are personally responsible for replying to those complaints because they get evaluated on that whole process, how many complaints come in, how many are resolved, and things of that nature. And at minimum, I encourage everybody here, I encourage the whole community, if you have complaints, please come to these meetings. I show up and there'll be 50 people in the room, which is good, and I'll show up, there'll be nobody in the room. I can't get better if you don't come to these meetings and explain what the problems are. I come to the meetings myself personally. You know, I have a full busy day of scheduling and I still show up to community meetings. I come here, I had a full day of work. My job is to make your life better. And your taxpayer dollars pays for the police department to protect and serve you. We will do that. Hold us to that task.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I just had a couple of questions. You mentioned the police academy training facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that on the drawing board now? You know where it's going to be located, how big a facility and what's going to be going on there? I know you emphasize community space, but it's being built for police and fire training? Could you explain that?
It's being built as a community center, first of all. It's right outside of the 5th Precinct, right off Clinton Avenue, 480 Clinton Avenue. It's around the corner from there. It's being built as a training facility for the entire community. Yes, the police academy will have a training facility to train our police officers, but now we don't have to pay somebody else to do it. We can do it internally with support of other agencies. 2, our fire department's also there. They will provide training in class with our fire department. We have a state-of-the-art virtual room to do our training so cops can be better trained in what they do. They can see real-life scenarios, and they can get better at their jobs. At the same time, the community center, we have OVP and their umbrella of all 20 city activist groups that help patrol the city. They have avenues to use that facility for their training of their personnel also. OVP has training. One Hood has training opportunities. They will just go in there and say, I want to have a training on this date, and there'll be rooms with state-of-the-art equipment to have those training also. And on top of that, we have some community groups that have been allocated office space to be there also that will have that facility, whether it's WIC or aid to families with children, or how do you job-seeking techniques they can have. Whatever they want to have, they can schedule it and coordinate it and plan it and use that facility for training. So the training is multi-purpose. It's for training everyone. It's also to build a relationship. We're going to have the Police Explorer program. We also plan to have a program where we're having a meeting with NJIT and Rutgers to partner up to have a 1-week summer program where a child that wants to go to college will go to a week for 40 hours that week and get 3 accredited colleges to a city or state university. These are all avenues to help assist the community And these are all avenues to help build a better relationship between the community and police, because we're going to be sharing the same space.
And you have a projected date?
They're going through the venting process now. Actually, Captain Carrillo is going to be the commandant of the academy itself. We're doing the venting process where the PTC, the Police Training Commission, is reviewing all their criteria to open an academy, and we should be approved. It takes about 30 days to process this. We started the first week in February. By the end of the month, they should be completed. The PTC only meets bi-monthly. So they met in February. They can't meet again until April. So I would say if they have an emergency meeting for us, we should be approved by the middle of March. If not, we'll be approved at their next meeting date because their investigation will be completed, and it should be sometime mid-April that will be open. And then it doesn't preclude us from having community events there now. We just can't do any police training there. But the community will be open, I believe the 28th. The mayor is going to have the unveiling for the community to view and see the academy itself, and it's for the community.
Okay, thank you. One last question. Thank you for acknowledging the groundbreaking work done by the forerunners and the current facilitators of the Office of Violence Prevention in bringing down the crime rate overall. That is commendable. I was wondering, as I understand it, there's a portion of the police budget that goes to that effort.
Yes.
Is that slated for an increase or steady as she goes, or what?
Well, I mean, I wish my budget would increase.
I'm just asking.
No, but I'm giving an example. I think the OVP, or the Violence Prevention, Mayor Ross J. Baraka set up the standards where whatever the budget of the police, OVP will get 5% of that budget, I believe, the exact number, and that budget goes towards community service. I'll give you an example. When I was a young trooper and I went to a domestic violence, this is how critical you're going to see how Newark has changed and passed away in how we do policing in America. If I showed up to a domestic violence as a young trooper, I would be there. I would have to say, in this case, it was violent, she was abused. I would not only have to arrest the father for, domestic violence, then I'd have to coordinate in getting the children a safe place if she was hurt. I'd have to call my own social workers and DIFUS workers and have them all present. This is all while I'm supposed to mitigate a violent act. I come to Newark, and so this is started before me. I come to Newark, and somebody gets hurt real bad, or there's domestic violence. Guess what? There's a social worker right in the station. When we come back with a person that may or may not have been arrested, that social worker outreaches to the family and provides them services that they may or may not have. Not every city has that. When there's a violent shooting, the 47 or 48 we had last year, every time we had a violent shooting at 3 o'clock in the morning, which one death is far too many. I don't want to say it's a good standard having 47 people die. It absolutely is not. But when we go out there, we set up a station for OVP with the community active groups to go out there, and OVP will provide them resources to go out there and support the community. Whether they need social services, they need somewhere for the kids to stay for the night that the city will end up paying for, they need some type of guidance to support them. And the best part of all is they outreach to the families to prevent recidivism and retaliatory attacks because they're getting support they need, as opposed to being angry at the rest of the world for this happening to the family member, and now later on being that same kid retaliating on somebody else. So that's what it's done. That's why I give credit to some of the groups on how they do things, because I can sincerely say I've been on both sides of the fence where I had to do it all myself. Well, now you mean I can just be a cop and then everything else goes to somebody else? I just have to be a cop and do an investigation? Because not every cop is going to be this sociable person like myself where you could talk to a group. Some people are military. They don't have the personality to talk to people. And in this case, we're putting people to do those jobs. We have the Hope One van that goes out and searches for people that are under addiction with a police officer. But the police aren't present. They're just to make sure something doesn't happen, but they outreach to that person and try to get them some help. We have the homeless van that goes out with the police department that's scheduled right now under Sergeant Phoebus. And they go out there and find homeless people. Because normally if a cop walks up to a homeless person, there's probably going to be a fight. But now we show up with the homeless council members that talk to them, and they talk to them. If nothing's happened, we just stand there. We're there to make sure they're safe, because it is a dangerous job. You're going to meet people with emotional issues that will react in some manner that's violent, and that's what we're there for. But it prevents any type of police negative contact with the community, because we have those outreach resources there to support. And that's the direction Newark is heading. And that's what we're doing to help the city get better. And this started way before I got here. We're just fine-tuning it, that we can marry up education and training with that process to help the department grow and become better.
But you wouldn't mind advocating for an increase, right?
I would always add, when I went to the council meeting and they approved the Axon camera system, it took me actually about my first year and a half, because it's a bureaucratic process to get the money. And then they finally realized that this helps us get better. Now the cameras turn on automatically. If I show up on the scene, it triggers it automatically. There is no worry about cameras turning on, who's in that video. Anytime you interact with the police, it's going to be on video. So if you're going to make a complaint, just be accurate with it, because it's going to be on video. So we don't have to ask who's telling the truth. It'll be right on video for you. It gets dumped automatically into a server. You can pull it up easy on the computer system. So we've always come with a process now that where I come from. Everything we do in policing should be intelligence-led and technology-driven, so you can avoid unforced errors and mistakes. So if you use intelligence to get to a location, I don't have to profile and say who's doing this. I just look at the numbers. Where's it happening? Oh, every day, according to this system, at 5 o'clock in the morning, somebody gets robbed. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to put patrol cars there at 5 o'clock in the morning, because I did an analysis that showed me that the violence is happening here to prevent the crime. So that's our key and motto since I've been here. We've changed everything to intelligence-led and technology-driven. It's not based on opinion. If they're somewhere with heavy police presence at nighttime, they're there for a reason. It's because something happened, not to intimidate, it's really to make sure that we're safe. Or we have information that some retaliatory effect may be happening, and we want to mitigate that and prevent it. We are truly here, indeed, to try and support the community and keep you in a safe environment, and to better improve your living conditions and a sense of security. Because the reality is, if your perception is you're not safe, then that's reality. But our physical presence there is just to show you that you are safe, and we are getting this city to that point.
Okay, you had mentioned $6 million for the camera system. Is that body-worn cameras, or?
There's 1,100 cops. That means 1,100 cops have to put body cameras on. And there's a total of about 350 cars. That means every car has to be fitted with camera systems on. And the reason for that is part of the, when you have the consent review board that reviews our technology, everything we do will be on video camera. Everything that happens, you'll be able to prove it at some point in time. And it keeps everybody honest and everybody safe. It actually protects police officers. I know at some point in time, even as a trooper, when the cameras first came on, they were like, oh man, they're always watching over your shoulder. Well, guess what? The first time somebody called and said I cursed them out on the stop, and they watched the tape, and I was like, yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir, they were like, good job. People didn't realize that the whole interaction is on tape. Back then, I'm showing my age, it's on tape. It's not tape anymore, it's digital. So we're not getting a VHS tape, but like when I got on it, carrying it to the car and putting it in, this is just automatically downloads now, so it's totally different, but it's improved.
So does that mean all officers now wear body cams?
They have been, but now they're being updated with a new body cam system that works a little more efficient, and technology is a little more advanced. It can do a lot more, and we can easily access it compared to before, where it took a lot longer time to download and review. The man hours I was spending in overtime to review video, because these consent decrees is serious stuff. So when they're saying that, you know, I'll give you an example. We have a violent act right outside the door. 20 police cars shows up. That's 20 car cameras and 20 body-worn cameras of 3 to 4 hours of footage that we have to review to make sure every aspect is covered. And when you have an inundated system, that makes it even longer.
Any other questions?
Good evening. Later, I need your contact. So, you speak about training, right? For the upcoming police department. Is there going to be ethnic training? And, go ahead.
Go ahead. There is always diversity training. The state has mandated diversity training that we have to do every single year. We do it in-house now with our academy doing that also. There's ABLE training we have to go through the state that's mandated through the state of New Jersey that every police department has to do that. We have 40 hours of training that we have to do annually for police officers. So the training is already mandated by us. And we do have implicit bias training that we have to go through. So there's a whole slew of training we have to go through after the academy to ensure that they still follow procedures. And everything's repetition. If you have this ongoing training, it becomes part of you. Research, like you're doing your job, it becomes muscle memory. And the training is always enhanced and continues every single year.
Okay, so, I heard you speak about implicit bias training. So what about simple communication and how police officers should show respect toward individuals? I'm an ex-police officer and ex-correction officer, and I never had an incident, and I had 71 men in my unit every night. It's a way to talk to people in the community, especially people paying tax dollars to have the police here. And if you spoke about people in the community helping to solve most investigations, but imagine how many more investigations can be solved if police officers treat you with dignity, treat you with respect. I'm a citizen, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, and I'm also a victim of police violence. My brother was murdered by the police, but I do not hold all police to what happened to my brother, right? It's just the way you respect another individual. And the night that I was approached by the police officer, I don't believe he had body cam on. He did not turn that body cam on. If that body cam was on, when I see some kind of light, green, red, or something, saw nothing that night. And just the way he talked to me, I don't think the training that he was given is replicating what he should be doing out there on the street. And to my concern after speaking to neighbors, he's the same police officer who had a negative engagement with her as well. So he's starting a pattern. I live in an area where there's a lot of police presence. The lights, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or if that's what they are recommended to do, those takedown lights, shining bright to my house, just like this. I can't even sleep. 4:30 in the morning, sirens, whoop, whoop, every day. Why? They wouldn't not do that in another community outside of Newark. That would not happen. That noise would not happen. Those lights would not be flashing in somebody's house that's in Roselle Park. It will not happen. I really don't mind the police presence, but the lights is ridiculous. The noise is ridiculous. We know they're there. Everybody knows that they're there. They're there for a reason. We know, but I own a house and I'm a taxpayer, and I don't appreciate certain things that go on that street. And they can actually solve some crimes instead of bothering the taxpayers that's living in those homes there. And the whole street is like a highway. I don't know where I need to go to speak about getting speed bumps on that street, because it's like they're going through that street 60 miles an hour.
All right, I'll answer several questions. First of all, in reference to the speed bumps, if you go to any city council meeting, you can request speed bumps versus those evaluations. Secondly, I encourage, like for instance, I don't want negative police officers on my force. And I can tell you right now, presuming, let's just assume that they didn't have body cameras on. I'm just going to presume that as a hypothetical. If you went to the precinct right now and you said on Tuesday morning at 4:30, a cop came and talked to me, he drove up in his car, and he didn't have his body cam on, and he was talking to me in this sort of way, first of all, we'd investigate it. And you know what? I can track where that car was at in front of your house that day. So if you said a car was there at 4:30 at a certain time, I could put it in a computer and find that car and find out who was driving that car. So if somebody's doing something wrong, please, I encourage you to report it, because I can solve that even without the body camera. The reality of it is the body camera is a required piece of their equipment. They have to wear it, and with the new system, when you turn the lights on, you step out the car, the camera turns on automatically. If they turn it off, we'll know they turned it off, and that's another investigation, because they're not allowed to turn it off in any circumstances when they're doing some type of investigation. So if anybody in the community has a concern, and there's somebody's not wearing a body cam, they had to get to your house some way in uniform, and they're in a vehicle, we could track the vehicle. Today, we're monitored so heavily that we can get to the bottom of almost anything that happens when the police officer does it. So if that's one of your concerns and there's a concern about the attitude, demeanor, please make a complaint, because if he was wearing a body cam, which I can almost guarantee that they will, we'll review the body cam footage and he'll get charged for an attitude and demeanor complaint. We have several of those. Our numbers, as Captain Carrillo would tell you, have gone down the past couple of years because they also know they're being recorded. They also know they'll get charged if we watch the video and they don't preclude to the circumstances that we require them to do or act in a behavior that's meaningful and pleasant to the community. There's no need for them to be belligerent and arrogant. I mean, you're going to have guys that are a little more authoritative than others. That's just personalities. But the reality of it is, if they're not following the standards of respect and teaching you with dignity on any police interaction, I implore you to report it.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't even want to repeat. I'm in the church. I don't even want to repeat what this officer said to me. It's atrocious. It's ridiculous how he spoke to me when I'm literally sitting in my vehicle, parked, circle around the block 2 times, looking for trouble, okay? And then he walks over to me while I'm sitting in my car, waiting for my husband to back his car out of the driveway so I can put my car in like we do every night so we could prepare for the next workday. And what he said to me, I'm going to tell you what he said to me before I leave. And then you're just going to have your mouth open. Because this is the officer that you say that is working under you. I don't think he should be no police officer. The way he talks to women, black women, the community, is ridiculous.
I encourage you.
So I'm going to talk to you when I am done, please.
Yes.
Because it's been bothering me for the past 6 months. I can't even sleep.
Sergeant Phoebus, can you get her information and the time and date of the incident so we can review this matter accordingly? I'm sorry for any inconvenience, ma'am, but we will rectify that by making sure we investigate this matter to make sure that, the citizens have that this is a negative impression that we don't want of the police, and we're going to mitigate to the end to make sure that every party is satisfied.
Yes, Sharon Redding, South Ward community activist, NCST advocate, and parent liaison. My question is about the crossing guards. It's been an ongoing thing. I know you've talked about it before. The crossing guard situation here in the city of Newark, you just stood right there and said that you advocated for the city council to give more money for body cameras. Why can't you advocate for our children to get more crossing guards so they can go back and forth to school? Because we have safe, I'm not saying that we have safe passage from NCST and all these other organizations, but they are not crossing guards. We have a shortage of crossing guards. I know you did a big hire and everything, but a lot of people can tell you the city of Newark, our children are in danger every day of not having crossing guards at these schools throughout the city, not just over in the South Ward, because I live in an area where there's 5 different schools in my one area, and one crossing guard. And also, what policy is it the way you treat, the way the Newark Police treats civilians that are going to be a crossing guard? I know you had a class that went in yesterday that came in for their orientation. My phone didn't stop ringing for the way they were treated. They had to get tattoos taken, their tattoos on their body were taken by a camera, by the police down there, their phones. They were talked to like they were not even civilians trying to get a job. They felt like they were criminals. So that needs to be addressed. Oh yes, you told me to go to the city council, and I did go to the city council to ask for more money for these crossing guards and stuff, but it seems like we have a problem in this city when it comes to our children and their safety. So maybe you could give me some answers. Thank you.
In reference to the crossing guard, there's been a big shortage of crossing guards, and as far as people who want to apply and become crossing guards, December I did a big vamp of surge to hire crossing guards. We're required by state law to provide crossing guard to all the public schools. As you know, the city has a whole bunch of charter schools that opened up, and now we're trying to cover those areas. We hired, I believe, 18 crossing guards in mid-December, and we put them all through training, and we just hired several more in training. But it's really, we've exhausted the whole list of people that we have that applied. We've recruited, we're going out to recruit to say, hey, do you want to be crossing guards? But, and the city council has approved for me to hire more crossing guards. As you can tell, I hired 18 more, and we put them through the schools to help with the traffic problem we're having. We even have our traffic officers assisting and putting them for other details just to assist the crossing guard situation, because we are attempting to keep children safe. So we have the traffic unit just assigned to the schools to assist the crossing guards, to ensure safety because of the traffic accidents that's been happening recently. So I mean, the reality is it can always get better. We just had a big hiring group of crossing guards. As you know, they just got trained this week. There is a process. If the process is flawed in this complaint, I would encourage you to make a complaint. We'll get the information down and find out when it happened, to have the conversations with the personnel that was there to ensure it doesn't happen again. I can't argue the fact of whether it did or did not, because you heard it from somebody, so we're going to have to investigate to get that done. But the crossing guard problem is, okay.
Round table, it's about eight people.
Okay.
Tuesday, the Newark Community Street Team Public Safety Roundtable at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
They will be on there to make their complaints, to talk to Sergeant Santos and to talk to Captain Wilson. They say the way they were treated at 22 Franklin Street was despicable. And the way they talked, they said the fingerprint machine went down, and when they were asked how long they had to stay there, they told them why were they asking, there was none of their business. Now come on, the city of Newark needs to do better than that. We are citizens in here. They need jobs just like everybody else, but we're not gonna be treated like we're just nobody out here and not being respected and stuff. And when we go into a police precinct, we're gonna feel like we already criminals, because you know this city is already so traumatized from the police from years back. Stories that I can't even tell you, because I was traumatized from the police myself, but I'm on a different path now. But when we go here for jobs and everything, we shouldn't have to feel like we are criminals and treated any kind of way, like we are nothing. That's all I'm saying. And that should be a policy that we should be putting into order, Mr. Harvey, too, that the Newark Police Department needs to be able to treat civilians that come in for job with dignity and respect. Thank you.
What is the policy regarding the jump out boys? These police officers that ride around in vehicles, sometimes in ambulances, and just jump out and attack, assault, and harass citizens. Are we still under a consent decree? And if we are, how is that allowable under a consent decree? Prime example, the Rodwell Spivey brothers. They spent time in jail for no reason, because the police lied. And now the city is getting sued by this family because their rights was violated. How is Newark Police continue to violate citizens, residents, and they're under consent decree? Like, how is that possible?
I can't speak to a lawsuit that happened years prior to this or pending litigation, but I can tell you that there is no such thing as the jump out boys now. First of all, everything is on video. If there's a complaint, then please make a complaint, because every single stop we do is on video, Every single action is recorded. So if there's a complaint, like if you're making a complaint here without physically saying something, I have Phoebus in the back. Please give me the time and date it happened so I can mitigate. I'm here to tell you, there's a concern, tell me about it. We'll investigate to its fullest of the exact date and time that you're telling me. But if you're saying it to me, but we want to mitigate it, I don't want to just hear about it. There's a problem, tell me, I'll fix it. That's what I'm here for. I've come here to listen to everything people have to say because I want to make this community better. I sincerely want to make the environment we live in better. And if there's a complaint about jump out boys, what I can sincerely tell you, I've been here 2 years and we don't have jump out boys, whatever happened in the past. But then, Phoebus, please get her information of the date and time, and I will gladly investigate that and mitigate it to its end to ensure that we can give you an intelligent response as to that.
Hey, all power to the people. All power to the people. Hey, today's the 21st where Malcolm was shot and killed for standing up for the people, for fighting for the people. I'm going to say it again. Today's the 21st. This is the day that Malcolm was killed for coming and standing up for the people. And we need to understand that, because when you stand up for the people, there are repercussions for it. And we got to be clear here. I know you a cop, you standing up there taking up for the police, taking up for the institution. But as a black man, you should understand that the police are not here to protect us. We should know that all of us, all black people should understand that by now. And that's what Malcolm taught us, Fred Hampton taught us, even Dr. King taught us that these institutions are not here to protect us. When Mr. Harvey, Peter Harvey came here, when he first came with the consent decree, I told him how our car was stolen in front of our house by the police. They drove around with Denty's brothers and they took our vehicle. And then they told us that the vehicle had no registration. We took the registration down there. They ended up impounding my car because I refused to pay them because they stole my vehicle. I ended up suing them. When I sued Denty's brother, we went to court. The judge told me I had to sue the city. See, we poor. We don't have money. I don't have money to run around suing people, going to court every day. So my car is gone. I called Peter Harvey several times. The number that he gave me, I called you, bro, over and over and over and over. I'm a Black Panther. I'm the chairman of the New African Black Panther Party right here in Newark. See, I understand how this works. I teach the political education class. And when I teach the class every Sunday, 7 p.m. on Zoom, I tell them that the police are armed agents of the state. They're here to protect imperialism. They're here to protect the people with the money that oppress the people here. Our schools are trash, 17% proficiency. That's the highest. Everything else is 5, 10%. The graduation rate is like 60-something%. I mean, the people going to college is like 18%. Hey, yo, could you please give me your attention? Because I sat here and I listened to you. I mean, like, yo, the disrespect is really glaring. Like, I called you, Peter. For years, I called you, because it's been years that you were supposed to be here to clean it up. You said there are no jump out boys. I got the video on my Instagram page right now. I could pull it up right now. They jumped out with their mask on 1st Street. And they got the young boys sitting there, and we're asking them, why are you taking that young man? They never answered us. But you come up here and you say, like, there are no jump out boys. I said, we're crazy. They came in cars, tinted, no license plate. Those are jump out boys. And just jump out and grab somebody. That's what we call jump out boys. The mayor, Ras Baraka, has me in court right now because I asked him about gentrification. He called the police department. I got that on video. He said I threatened them, and they locked me up. This was what, in November? I still haven't been to court. They say my court is at a grand jury, so now they're going to just play the long game with me, and nothing is going to happen. But when I go to council meetings to speak, they don't allow me in the building. Wait, don't ask me if I got a question, bro. Come on, man. I'm asking my question. Why you ain't answer my call? Why are there jump out boys and you telling me there are no jump out boys? And you coming up here to come tell me what to say? Come on, man, where you got to go? Ain't you getting paid right now? I'm not getting paid. You getting paid with tax dollars right now. Stop. You interrupted me. That's why I'm addressing you. You get paid to be here. We don't get paid. You know what I just left? An after-school program where we work for free to work with kids in the city because they don't get educated in school. So we teaching them how to read with boxing, basketball, all of that. My wife just came out of work. Where's she at? She went to the bathroom? She probably went to the bathroom. She ain't had a chance to go to the bathroom yet. And we came here. We not getting paid to be here. You getting paid, he getting paid, Peter getting paid, everybody else getting paid. So what you rushing me for? Man, I'll take my time to ask my question, bro. I got a time limit? What's my time limit? What's the clock?
Please ask the question shortly.
Like cause you came over here to come, you want the mic, you want to talk?
If you
Like, and I am asking my question. I mean, like, damn, bro. Like, this is crazy. But this is the disrespect that I'm talking about. Because we live in this city. I was born and raised here. Sussex Avenue, Velsburg Middle, Essex County College, and I graduated from King University. And we have survival programs in this community where we feed and we work with the children. And this guy right here, I've never seen him. He's just coming to me to just disrespect me to get off the mic. Yo, we want to know, Peter, what is going on with the consent decree, man? And how is the mayor allowed to stop me from entering public events, public town hall meetings that are hosted by the city, funded by the city, and the mayor is stopping me from entering, and there's nothing done about it. You talk about cameras, we have it all on video, and there's nothing being done about it. So when we come here, and I hear you up there speaking, I mean, with the little nice monotone voice saying there are no jump out boys, yo, it sounds crazy to us. It sounds disrespectful to us that know we see it every day. We understand you're a police officer. You have to protect that institution. But we are the residents here. And like the lady said, we pay taxes. Because every day we walk out of our house, ching ching, $1 bill. We are paying to survive out here. And the way y'all treat us, the way y'all talk to us, is as if we're nobody. I'm looking around here. The people that live at Academy Spires are not here. The people that the police brutalize, they're not sitting nowhere around here. So we have these meetings, and you talk here, and then you go back to wherever you live at, your nice suburb homes, your nice home, and with your insurance, all of that. People catching hell here. And I came up here keeping it a buck with y'all, keeping it real. I know there's nothing you're going to tell me or do to change the condition, but we're just here to record it to show that we do come here to talk to you people. We do come to talk to Peter Harvey. And we show the people on Sunday when we have our political education classes, like, look, we talked to him. I talked to him 2-3 years ago. My car still got stolen. Nobody's being held accountable. When you go talk to the police about the camera, they don't even show you the camera. I got video of the police laughing at me about my stuff that the police stole. So like when you come here, you'll have some respect for the people here, man. We're human beings too. We deserve respect. And like y'all can't be running around doing all this pro-black stuff when y'all piss on the graves of people like Malcolm. What will Malcolm say to you? You think Malcolm will be standing up here respectful to you? Malcolm will call you a boot-licking Uncle Tom. That's what Malcolm will call you. I mean, so what are y'all doing here? That's the real question. What are y'all doing here?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, there go your mic. There's a few questions. You can answer any one of them because we got the video. You want the video to jump out, boys? I'll show it to you. But we're not going to play this game like none of this stuff is happening. My car be stolen already. I don't need to talk to Phoebus. I will give you my number myself. I don't need to talk to nobody around here. I need to know, like, my car is gone. We was paying for it. We paid for it a year after the police impounded it. I never got that money back. I mean, so I don't need to talk to Phoebus. I need to talk to who's going to give me my money back. That's what I need to talk to.
And that's what I have. If you have the complaint you want to make and the video you want to provide of the date and time that you said there was a jump out or jump out boys, and if there were police affiliated, we'll review your video. We can get it dumped and start an investigation to manage that quickly. Yes, ma'am.
So what we gonna do, Peter, before I leave? Because he about to give me a little song and dance routine.
Answer?
If I recall correctly, I think we put you in contact with the police about the confiscation of your car.
Yeah.
Secondly, as I said earlier, the consent decree does not give us the authority to run the police. We don't. What we do is we measure the police department's compliance with the consent decree. If you have an issue trying to get your car back, That's an issue with the Newark Police, and you should talk to someone here. And number two, if in fact you have a legal claim, you got to go to court. I wish I could tell you that someone in here could decide that for you, but we can't. I'm here to give you a report, an update on the consent decree based upon our evaluation of Newark's work under the consent decree in specific tasks: stops, searches, arrests, property and evidence, and community engagement. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. And that's what we were, this is what, yes, they actually are making progress.
So what's the next step after they fail?
Well, right now, they aren't failing.
They're not failing.
No, they're not failing.
Don't waste your time on that.
Yeah, they're not failing.
Hey, the community telling you they're failing, you gonna judge they talking about they're not failing. Don't be dirty wreck out here, man.
Thanks for coming.
Another question.
Going back to the crossing guards,
ma'am.
the past few weeks or few months, the background check, has that been taken away or that has been lessened?
No, the background checks are state mandated. That's not us to decide who could be crossing guard. The state has rules and regulations that apply to crossing guards, and we have to follow what the procedures are for what type of backgrounds can be crossing guards.
Okay, so you're saying they're not going to be police officers, they're going to be crossing guards. So the background checks are just as intense as if you're going to be a police officer?
Well, and not necessarily just intense. Like the reality is, you're a crossing guard working with kids, right? Mm-hmm. There's a rule that says that if you've been charged with a sexual crime, you can't be a crossing guard.
Of course, I can
So
understand.
there's certain things that are set in standard just for crossing guards that you can't have done or you can't be part of that would preclude you from being a crossing guard.
Of course, the same thing as if you're a police or you're going to be a police officer.
Well, the police
you'll
officer
be
standards are a lot
vetted.
stricter.
May I finish my question,
Yes,
sir?
go ahead.
If you're going to be vetted as a police officer, there's certain criteriums that you must go through to become one, yes?
Yes.
So I'm asking you, the same criteriums are the same thing for crossing guard?
No, it's not as extensive. The background's not extensive as a police officer than it is for crossing guard.
Do you know what the limitations are?
I don't have the other limitations off the top of my head. I can tell you some of the standards are some criminal elements that will prevent you being crossing guard. Any child sexual acts against children or adults would preclude you. That's off the top of my head. but I
Logically,
can't give you
that's
exact.
understood. Logically, that's understood. That would be also stepped out. But I was thinking felonies, because when I sat I listened to the last roundtable, it was as if charges, felony charges and certain other misdemeanor charges that curtailed the person from applying to become a crossing guard in that respect. What about bonding?
Excuse me?
Bonding?
You said bonding?
Bonding, yes. It's a process where if someone has a certain crime outside of those logical ones that you just pointed out, that the state or the city, by way of 990, will take it up and make sure that that person is okay and protected if something in the event that does happen.
That will be a liability on the city. The state has regulations for crossing guards. We're required by law to follow the state regulations and do the background based on the state standard. So if the state standards say that you cannot have a felony charge, then you're never going to be a crossing guard. We can't circumvent that. We can't change that. That would be something that would have to be litigated on the state level. We just follow the guidelines that are sent to us.
I understand. That's some form of leniency that needs to be taking place because within our communities and community collectiveness, that the people that lives within our community is not exceptional per se in regards to climbing the ladder or doing certain things. Our citizens in our community, and it's not all of us, we do have a past. Some of us has a more extensive past, and some of us have not a past of the legal system at all. So in order for us to take care of our communities within that community setting, and you're going to use the personnel that resides in that community, I think there needs to be some type of checking into and some form of leniency in regards to crossing guards.
I do understand your concern, and at some point in time there was a bill proposed that went to the state level, but laws are laws. Until those bills are changed or mitigated, I'm required to follow the law.
Okay, land, air, and water. Oh, I apologize.
Good evening, Director.
Good evening, sir.
I got a quick question, and just to piggyback off what she said, I think it need to be like considered that our community be pre-consent decree, and for many years we've been heavily policed, heavily, like, you know what I'm saying, investigated on. So a lot of us got charges, a lot of us copped out to charges that we didn't even did just cause a financial thing, just cause, it was harder to fight. And that's come from years and years of war against us and stuff like that, systemic racism and all this type of stuff. I'm not getting into that. It's just, that should be taken into consideration, what I was saying, because we've been, our community, and this ain't me just pulling something out the air, this is something that's been proven and been stated and been documented, that our community been heavily policed for the least the past 60 years and beyond. Our community and black and brown people is being arrested, have been arrested 29 times than any other our counterparts. You know what I'm saying? So when we want, and if I did something at 18, and according to the way this law is, as far as the crossing guards, and I'm not even speaking on that just to pick up, it's just with anything. If I did something at 18, at 30, I can't, if I copped out to something, not even did nothing, just copped out to something and was a felon, did something. At 18, and having gotten no other trouble at 35, and I couldn't be in contingents of being even a mail carrier, a postal service, or a crossing guard, or even one of your own police officers. Even one of your own, and we've been heavily policed against. But our counterparts in other communities was doing far more worse than us. But guess what? They got to be them police officers. They got to, they was in the malls. I seen them growing up, you know what I'm saying? They was selling drugs in the malls. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not making this as no racial or no bias thing, but it is what it is. And we can't be a lot of things in this world. Not only in our community, we can't be a lot of things due to systemic racism, systemic policing, and this don't have nothing to do with you because you're doing a job trying to change things, and it don't have nothing to do with Mr. Harvey because he's doing it, making great suggestions to try to save Jane. But just keep that in mind when you say, well, it's just the state mandate and we got to follow the rules and them laws. And we got people here. We got people here to make recommendations, make suggestions, and lobby to change the rules due to all the systemic racism that we went through and all the heavily police we went through. And guess what? And you know how you know that them other folks, other than us, was involved in other things? Because when they become police officers, it shows. They shoot first and ask questions later. With that, I'm complete.
Thank you very much, sir. But what I would say to you is that when I was discussing that these are laws, it's not to make light of what you're requesting, but I do want to advise you that, as I tell everybody here, your presence here is key to making things better. The fact that you're here having dialogue here, expressing your concerns is key. But to take it a step further, in order to change for anything in this country, you have to show up to council meetings. You have to show up and express your concerns at those meetings, because unless they are voted on by council and then it makes it to the state and they vote on it, there won't be any change with the laws that you're requesting to be changed. Because there was a big push to adjust the standards for, and I'll give you an example. It's caught between two things. Where do you draw the line between the possibility of something happening to a 7-year-old child walking down the street? Because that's part of the reason. What do you lessen? What factors do you lessen? Like that 7-year-old kid. If I am a crossing guard, I'll give you an example, and I see the same kid every day, we become friends. I'm not saying people are going to do bad things to kids, but that's what you got to weigh it up against. Do you take that chance of having that 7-year-old, 10-year-old kid that walks to school every day, that meets that man, that all of a sudden that kid disappears? We have a whole bunch of missing children in the city of Newark that we have issues concerning trying to find. Some of them are runaways. Those are problems. But these laws are set here just to protect children. Mistakes people made in the past, whatever the reasons are, whether it's biasness, police aggression that happened, within the past couple of years, I definitely understand that, and I definitely think those should be mitigated, which is what we're doing here as a police department. Like, I don't want things like that to happen. I don't want you to have the impression that the police won't be there for you. I want you to feel safe in your community. And at the same time, we want to make sure children are safe. But the guidelines that I can't, as a police officer, violate the law myself. You know, and when the laws are written, I have to enforce those laws. So if they say you can't have this, I have no choice. But I would encourage you to show up to the council meeting, because they've had discussions, there's still a big push, and express those concerns, sign those petitions. Your voice, the power to vote is what causes everything. We need to show up there and do that. This year when we have the polls, let me see everybody in this community show up and vote, because that's where the change is going to be. But when we show up 25% of the polls, we're not going to hear our voice. That's where your voice is heard. And I don't want to get into politics and voting, but that's truly where things and change happens. Okay, I hope that assisted in some way. Oh, yes, sir, go ahead. Absolutely.
Training and stuff that you do have you ever think about having the community involved with training the police and how to treat us? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm all the academics. I know you said the detective training. I know you said this training. I'm just talking about having the community involved. People like Mr. Shanks, people like Al Lord. Train the officers how to respect and talk to God. Now, when I ain't talking about trust, I ain't talking about.
No, I understand, sir. I don't understand.
The community, not even the traditional academic training, just training the officers how to engage. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir, very much. Yes, ma'am. Done?
Thank you, Director Forget. Thank you, General Harvey, and thank you, Reverend Atkin-Jones, for opening up your space here for us this evening. Thank you all for coming. You heard from both speakers that if you have things that you want to follow up with any of the people that are here today, take advantage of that. Otherwise, this concludes the meeting. Thank you.